Thank you, everybody, for coming to this session. It's the financial aid session, and we have Mike Galwell here from Fox Valley Tech. His title is Financial Aid Specialist, so he's going to talk all things financial aid, scholarships, loans, all the good stuff.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name, again, is Mike Galwell. I'm from Fox Valley Tech. One thing I want to point out, yes, it does say Fox Valley Tech up there, but we all follow the same federal guidelines no matter what college you go to. If it's an accredited college that takes the FAFSA application, it's going to be the same no matter what college you're going to. So yes, it does say Fox Valley Tech, but that's just because they're the ones that pay me to do this. So don't worry. I do talk fairly fast. This isn't the most exciting subject in the whole world, so I try to go as quick as I can to make this easy on everyone. If I am going too fast or you need me to stop and answer questions, feel free to raise your hand or holler. I am more than happy to do that for you. So let's talk about paying for college. So I think this comic back here is one of the ones that kind of explains what financial aid is very well. Financial aid is a very confusing subject for a lot of folks, especially the old financial aid application. It used to be about 100 times more difficult than the current one is. So financial aid is kind of a broad spectrum term. A lot of folks, when they hear it, they think loans. That's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of financial aid. But financial aid is essentially any way you're going to pay for college. Grants, loans, scholarships, work-study opportunities. There's lots of different ways that you can pay for college, and we're going to talk about a bunch of them today. First thing we got to talk about is what the costs are to go to college. So you have your tuition, your fees, your book supply, room, board, your transportation, and then your personal expenses. So all of these together give you what's called your COA, or your cost of attendance. So your cost of attendance is the cost for a student to attend for one full academic year. An academic year starts in August, ends in July. So it covers your fall term, your spring term, and then anything left over then would cover the summer. The categories that are listed up there, the three top ones, so the room, board, books, and tuition, those are all going to vary based off of whatever college you decide you want to go to. So obviously, if you stay with mom versus the dorms, it's going to cost different. If you take 20 credits versus 12 credits, it's going to cost different. Same thing with the books. Transportation and personal expenses, those are going to be regulated based off of whatever state your college is in. Different states allocate differently for those two expenses. So altogether, again, gives you that cost of attendance. That cost of attendance is going to be important later on down the line when you're looking at your award letters. Also, if you do end up taking out student loans, you're going to want to know what your cost of attendance is for your loan providers and things like that. So the first thing we want to talk about tonight is the FAFSA application. So the FAFSA application is the free application for federal student aid. It's done once per academic year. And it can help students get a ton of money. There's so many people that don't fill it out that should be filling it out. It puts your student in for a plethora of different things, and it takes about 30 minutes to do. So I do have a quick video that we're going to watch just because nobody wants to listen to me drone on the whole time. So we're going to watch this quick.
College students of America, I bet right now you're going through something like this.
The cost of college is anywhere from $10,000 to $40,000 a year? I can't afford this. I'm not made out of money.
Of course you're not. Humans are made of oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, calcium, phosphorus, and in my case, hair gel. And I bet you think financial aid isn't for you, right?
Yeah, the only people who qualify are either geniuses or people so broke they've got moths in their pockets.
Nope, that's a straight up myth. Nearly everyone qualifies for financial aid, and all you gotta do is fill out the FAFSA.
FAFSA? Like Simba's dad in The Lion King.
No, you're thinking of Mufasa. FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. The government loves acrosticks as much as I do. And filling it out is really important. Every year, students miss out on millions of dollars that could help them cover the cost of college, just because they don't fill out the FAFSA.
You don't understand, Adam. No one has any reason to help me. I'm not special. My parents have good jobs, and my basketball skills are subpar. Ow! See?
First of all, aid isn't only based on your parents' income. They take several factors from the form you fill out and crunch the numbers.
Yeah, like the size of your family or the age of your oldest parent. I did the math, and you are wicked eligible.
Wait, you don't look like a mathematician.
Me? Nah. I'm just a janitor from humble origins in need of a second chance.
It's a reference from a movie that came out when you were like 2.
That's another thing. My age. I'm way too old. I graduated from high school a few years ago. They'd never help me now.
Actually,
You can apply no matter how old you are, as long as you're not dead. JK, I'm fine. I'm gonna be the old man in class who asks too many questions.
No matter your age, race, or even if your parents are undocumented immigrants, you totally can and should apply for aid.
I know one thing that would disqualify me. My grades are bad.
It can't be that bad.
No, they're literally bad.
It doesn't matter. Mediocre high school grades do not disqualify you. In fact, most federal student aid programs don't even take grades into account.
Carry the 2, drop the GPA. Huh. How you like them apples?
Ow! You don't need any particular high school GPA to fill out the Fafsa. You just gotta fill out the form. How hard is that?
It doesn't matter. I'm busy applying to colleges. I don't have time to fill out some long, crazy forms.
Well, let's ask an expert.
Hi, I'm Fafsa, the sentient Fafsa form. Many humans think I'm terrifying.
They're right.
Hey,
But I'm not that scary. You can transfer tax information from the IRS directly onto me now.
it only takes about 30 minutes. They just need a little info about you and your parents.
Parents? What if I support myself?
Well, you may still be considered dependent, but either way, Fafsa will be your guide.
Yep.
So I do this and get free money?
You could. Financial aid does include grants and scholarships, also known as free money.
But it also includes work-study programs and low-interest loans.
And federal loans can be way better than private loans. For one thing, when it's time to repay, there are flexible repayment options.
Aha! There's the catch. These loans must have crazy rate hikes.
No, the rate never goes up. The only thing you'll be hiking is the mountain of your dreams. So if you're watching this and you're applying for college, fill out the dang FAFSA.
Hey!
Sorry. Filling out the FAFSA is the single most important thing you can do to get financial aid. By submitting, you're also applying for funds from your state and possibly your school as well. You can submit as early as October. Heck, you can do it right now. So trust me, you got nothing to lose and a whole bunch to gain. And after you do, on to the hardest part of college, picking out the cheesy poster for your dorm room wall. Oh, hey, this will go great next to my periodic table.
All right, so like the video said, if you as the student have a social security number or an alien registration number, you can and you should fill out the FAFSA application. So now if anybody's looked at the FAFSA in the past, you may recognize that this looks a little bit different. It used to be called FAFSA.gov. There was a few different names that it went by. It is now all entailed under studentaid.gov. This is where you're gonna do everything financial aid. It's where you're gonna fill the application out. It's where you're gonna pay back student loans. All that fun stuff is done right from this site. This is what the new site looks like, except for right now at the top of the page, there's a lot more little banners that go across the top because of all the government stuff that's going on. But otherwise, this is kind of the general spiel of what this is going to look like. First thing you have to do in order to fill out the FAFSA application is everybody has to create what's called an FSA ID. So an FSA ID is essentially your digital signature for everything financial aid. So it's how you fill the application out, it's how you sign the application, it's also how the application is going to pull in your tax info. The FAFSA has been changed drastically since I went to college, even more so since maybe some of you went to college. With it, 2 years ago, they changed it. They brought it down from, I think it was like 144 questions down to roughly 62. This year, they've redacted it even more, so now it's, I want to say, about 45 questions that you got to answer. It's a pretty simple application. Like I said, it takes about 30 minutes to do. It opens October 1st, and you want to do it October 1st of your senior year. You guys are all juniors from what I understand, so you won't need to look at this until October of your senior year. The FSA ID has to be created by every student. Again, it's going to be done at studentaid.gov. When you do create this account, you can create this account whenever you want. That doesn't have to wait until senior year if you don't want to. But with that one, make sure you don't use your high school email address when you create your account. Your high school email gets shut down once you graduate, so you want to make sure you use like a Yahoo or a Gmail account if you can, just because you need to have access to this account for the entire time you are in college. So if you can use a Yahoo or Gmail, I highly recommend it. Username on here can be anything you want it to be. Same thing with the password. Your challenge questions, they do have to be unique. Please don't try to be one of those students that says your favorite color's red, your dog's name is red, and your first car was red. They won't let that happen. So, and then as for parents, so some parents may have to create an FSA ID as well. We got one more little video to talk about the parent info, just because it's a little in depth, but then we'll talk some more about it once it's done.
Fill out the Fafsa. You'll be asked several questions that will determine whether you are an independent or dependent student. This is an important distinction because if you're a dependent student, then you'll need to include your parents' financial information on your Fafsa. This means that your parents' financial information will be considered along with your information to determine your eligibility for federal student aid. So how do you figure out if you're an independent or dependent student? Generally, if you are a graduate student, on active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces, a veteran, are married, have children whom you support, or are 24 or older, then you are considered an independent student. If you don't meet any of these criteria, then you're likely considered a dependent student and will have to provide your parents' financial information when completing the Fafsa. If you have a different living situation, including divorced parents or living under the care of a grandparent or other relative, the online Fafsa will provide guidance to help you answer the parent questions. In other special circumstances, your status may not be as easy to determine, and you'll need guidance from the financial aid office at the college or career school you plan to attend. Some common questions that people often ask are, what if the Fafsa tells me I'm a dependent student, but my parents don't claim me on their taxes, or I've moved out of their house and am financially independent? While these situations do arise, they aren't part of the criteria for independent status on the Fafsa, so you would still be required to report your parents' financial information on the Fafsa. What if I'm considered a dependent student, but have no contact with my parents or access to their information? There are other options available to you in these situations, so it is possible for a dependent student to submit the Fafsa without parental information. If you have indicated on your Fafsa that you cannot contact your parents or access their financial information, you'll need to speak to staff at the financial aid office at the college or career school you plan to attend. The financial aid staff will tell you what to do next. So what if my parents aren't going to help me pay for college and refuse to provide information from my Fafsa? If this is the case, the only federal aid you may be able to receive will be an unsubsidized loan, which is a federal student loan that begins accruing interest as soon as you receive your funds. To find out whether you can get the loan, fill out your Fafsa and then speak to the financial aid staff at the college or career school that you wish to attend. If you have any other questions regarding financial aid, your college or career school will be able to answer them for you, and, if appropriate, make a decision about your dependency status. Their decision is final and cannot be appealed to the U.S. Department of Education. No matter your dependency status, make sure to complete the Fafsa to find out what federal money you can get for college or career school. If you have questions or need more information, please visit studentaid.gov.
All right, so kind of like the video said, if the student isn't 24 years old, they are going to be considered your dependent no matter what. The reason that is the Department of Education considers 24 the cutoff age because your insurance companies, most of them carry students through the age of 24 as long as they're enrolled in educational programs. Otherwise, if they don't meet those requirements, a parent will have to create that FSA ID that we talked about. Now, if mom and dad live in the same household, they're married, and they file joint taxes, only one parent has to create that account to do the application. If it is a divorced household, it's going to be whatever parent provides more than 50% of the support to the student. If it's a 50-50 situation, that's kind of where we get into the gray area of financial aid, and it's up to you to essentially choose which parent you want to use. They used to say in the past you wanted to use the parent with less income and less assets. They are saying now that more students will be grant eligible by using the parent with more assets and more income. So again, if you have to fill out the information, a parent, you may have to fill out this application, or you may have to do the ID as well. Sorry. If you have one from an older child that already went to college, or you yourself recently went to college, you may not need to create a new one. You just have to have access to your old one. Yeah. So if it was 10 years ago, you may have an account, but you won't have one of these created yet, so you'll still need to go on and create an account. So it should link to everything that you had for financial aid when you were in school yourself. Yep. So it's not going to affect anything for the students. The only way that it's really going to affect how much you're going to get would be if you yourself decided you wanted to go back to school. All right. All right, so what all is applied for with the FAFSA? We stress that we want students to fill this out because, like I said, it's going to put you in for a whole bunch of different things. So the first thing is going to be grants. This is what everybody wants from this application. Grants are free money. It's essentially the government, the state, whoever, giving you a check saying, here you go make something of yourself. There are several different types of grants out there. You have the Pell Grant. It's the largest federal grant available. It's the only one that hasn't ran out in the last 30 years and more than likely won't run out in the next 30. The other ones listed up here, the SEOG, the state and local specialized grants, these ones I consider them more like grandma's cookie jar. If you want to get a cookie, you got to get your hand in the jar before everybody else or you're going to miss out. These ones do run out, and they do run out fairly quickly. Not so fast that if you don't do it in the first month or so that it's open, you're going to miss out. But if you wait until the last couple of weeks before classes start, you probably won't be eligible for everything listed there. The application is also going to put your student in for federal loans. So if you ever hear somebody say that they did the financial aid application and didn't get anything, more than likely there's a chance they were probably lying. They probably just didn't get what they wanted off of the application, which probably was grants. Every student in here is going to be eligible for at least student loans. There's only two ways that a student is not going to be eligible, at least for the federal loans. That's going to be if the student is in default. It means they've borrowed money from the government before and didn't pay it back the first time. Or if the student has met what's called their lifetime learning limit, it means they've been in college for way too long and the government kind of says, hey, it's time to move on with life. Those are the only two ways that a student is not going to be awarded at least federal loans. And those federal loans, we'll get into them in a few minutes, but they can be a ton better than anything from the outside organizations. It's also going to put your student in for what's called work study. So work study is the ability for the student to work for the college while they're attending school. Every college in the country offers some form of work study. For example, at the Tech, we got about 50 to 100 different jobs our students can do. Anything from working in our IT department, security staff, grounds crew, cooking in the kitchen. If you're good in the subject, you could be a tutor. Once you get into some of the bigger colleges that have large dormitories, you could be a floor monitor or an RA. That can also be considered work study. Nice part about it is your student's going to apply to whatever position they want to do. It doesn't necessarily have to pertain to the career that they're going into. If they want it to, by all means, it's just going to help their resume. But if your student's really good with like a clerk type stuff, they could work in the financial aid office if they wanted to. It's totally up to them. You'll apply for whatever position you want once you're eligible to do it. The nice part about work study is we work around your class schedule. So say if you have class in the morning with like a 4-hour break before your next class, you could get paid to work for that 4 hours rather than going back to your dorm. That money can be used for anything that you need to help yourself succeed while you're in school because work study is going to get paid to the student directly. So it's going to come as a paycheck every week or every 2 weeks, depending on how the college does their payroll. Whereas grants and loans, those are going to get paid to the college first. The college takes out whatever they're owed, and then if there's leftovers, then they send that to the student. With work study, they do say students that use work study are about 17% more successful than those that do not, and that's because it keeps the student in that school kind of mindset. So rather than taking that 4-hour break, going back to the dorms, playing Xbox, falling asleep, maybe missing your next class, it helps the student kind of stay in that mindset of school and helps them focus some on it. There are two other things that the FAFSA application is going to be used for that aren't listed up here. The first one is going to be scholarships. Not all scholarships require that you fill out the FAFSA application, but more and more of them are starting to lean towards they want you to. It's one of the big reasons that we tell everybody they should fill this out, even if they don't think they're going to get anything but loans. Scholarships look at it as if you're willing to take their free money, why won't you try to get the free money from the government first? So that's one of the things that's going to look at it. The other item that it's going to be used for is called institutional aid. So institutional aid is money that's specifically going to come from your college to get you to come to the school. There are different types of institutional aid, like there's merit institutional aid where it's going to be based off of you being a valedictorian or the volleyball captain or any of those other things that are out there nowadays. You have need-based institutional aid where it's going to be they look at the students that have lower income, need that extra help to come through the door. And then they do also just give institutional aid out to some students that they'll look at it and they'll say, all right, well, this student only is eligible for loans, but they're at the very bottom of the group of only loans. So let's see if we can't give them something a little extra to come through. Every college is going to work it a little differently, so it's up to each different college how that institutional aid goes. But again, the FAFSA is something that's going to help you get that stuff, so it's why we recommend that everyone fills it out. Next thing we want to talk about is the federal student loans. A student must be in 6 credits to receive the federal loans. There are 2 different types that you could receive. First is what's called a subsidized loan, and then you have an unsubsidized loan. The difference between the two is that a subsidized loan does not accrue interest while the student is in school. So essentially, the government's going to eat that interest while the student is enrolled in college. A unsubsidized loan is going to start accruing interest the day you get the funds. The nice part about these is the interest rates on these are going to be far less than that of the outside organizations. These usually range anywhere between 2 and 6% for your interest rates, whereas if you were to go to get an unsecured private loan right now, even with good credit, the way our economy is, you're looking upwards of 10% for your interest rate, more than likely. A couple other things with the federal student loans: as long as the student is enrolled in 6 credits of financial aid eligible learning, they are not required to make payments on these while they're in school. They also have 10 years to pay everything from the federal loans back. So if the student borrows $10,000, they're paying $10,000 back over a 10-year period. Versus those outside organizations, again, sometimes those rates, or they don't give as much time. This is the nice part for all you parents out there. So there is no cosigner needed for these, and there is no credit history needed. So that means these are going to be strictly your student's responsibility. So if your student takes out loans from the federal government, they are strictly the student's responsibility. So when you go to retire or to go buy that cabin up north, it's not going to affect your ability to do that for your student having loans. Now, with the federal loans, the government does not give out $200,000 of student loan debt like they say. You hear all these stories. Yeah. So you're saying the parent student loans? So no, the parent student loans are not going to affect whether or not the student can get aid. So if the parent is in debt from their student loans or they're behind on payments for student loans, it's not going to affect your student's ability to get aid. Same thing with like if the parents are undocumented citizens or if they live in another country, it's not going to affect the ability of the student to get the aid as long as they have a social security number or an alien registration number. The only thing that the parent's going to do that could potentially mess up the student's ability to get aid would be is if you don't file taxes and you should be. So if you're one of those folks that just feels you don't need to pay taxes, unfortunately your student is not going to get help until you actually file those taxes. Now if you don't file taxes because you legitimately don't make enough money and you don't have to, it's not going to affect anything. You're just classified as a non-tax filer when they try to pull your information in, and you're good to go. It's only if you're intentionally not paying your taxes when you should be. That's the only way that you as a parent are going to affect whether or not the student's going to get their aid. So, like I was saying, one of the things we hear all the time is those horror stories about students having hundreds of thousands of dollars of student debt. With the federal government, like I said, they do have what's called a lifetime learning limit, so they will only give you X amount of dollars. If you can see right here, I don't know if you guys can see the cursor. Yeah, you can. All right, so if you can see, up there it says $5,500. That is how much a first-year dependent college student is going to get from the federal government. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it definitely can help when you're looking to pay for college. And then after your first year, you'll go up to $6,500. Once you become independent and no longer need parent information on your FAFSA application, it goes to $9,500 and then $10,500. Now, as most of us know, if you've looked at colleges at all, you know that those numbers usually don't pay for college. You could maybe get away at a tech college with just those loans, but even that's pushing it. So more than likely, if you don't have some other way planned out to pay for college, you are going to more than likely have to look for additional loans. Now, the next thing that we recommend to folks is a Parent Plus loan. Parent Plus loans are going to be the next best option as far as loans go. Your federal ones offered to the student are the best option because they have the best rates, the best repayment options. Next is going to be what's called a Parent Plus or a Plus loan. So this is going to be an additional loan that you can take out. You can request the full cost of attendance for each academic year. So even if your student gets, say, $10,000 of financial aid, you can still request that extra $10,000 in your loan when you go to fill it out if you want to. It's not necessarily that you're going to get it, but you can request all of it, and then they look at that and determine whether or not you're eligible for it. But this is going to have very similar, it's going to be very similar to that what's given to the student. Your interest rates on these are still going to be a little bit lower than if you were going out to the outside organizations. They're fairly simple to fill out. You just go onto your college's website and you search for those loans, and then it should be able to be brought up with just a page that you got to fill out. Next thing we're going to talk about is private loans. So this is the one that we get in trouble with. So if a student has the credit backing or the cosigner that can back it up, these guys will give you pretty much as much money as you want. This is where students get in trouble because they'll take, way more money than they need to pay for school. They'll take that money, they'll use it for things other than school. Like you hear about people taking their student loans and using them to go on spring break to Cancun. That's definitely not what they're meant for. So if that's what you're using them for and you're not using it to pay for your college education, then that's kind of on you. Not that everybody's situation is the same, but everybody has their own situation. So that's why we tell students that you want to make sure that you are shopping around when you're looking for these private loans. Now, I'm sure most of the parents in here have had a private loan before, whether that be a car loan, home loan, whatever it happens to be. As you know, we're not going to grab the first one off the rack. We got to shop around and find what fits us best. You're the only ones that know what fits you best, so please just make sure you're looking around. You want to check out those interest rates. Like I said, with the outside organizations, their interest rates are going to be far higher than that the federal government is going to offer you. You want to look at the repayment options. So a lot of these are going to expect you to start making payments either within 3 to 6 months of getting the money. Then they also will give you 3, 5, maybe 7 years to pay it back if you're lucky. It all depends. Each different loan company does it differently, so you want to, again, make sure you're looking around. Another thing that you want to ask them is if the loan can be put into deferment. So like I said, with the federal loans, as long as the student's in 6 credits, they are not required to make any payments while they're in school. Now, with the private loans, they're not required to do that. Some of them will, some of them will not. So you want to find out if the loans can be put into deferment while the student's in school. These are going to very heavily be weighed off of your credit score and your credit history, so just be forewarned with that. The picture that I have up here is what's called our Fast Choice site. So several different colleges have this. A lot of the UW systems use Fast Choice. Most of the tech colleges use it as well. So if you go to your school that you're looking to go to's website, you search for private loans, more than likely it's going to bring you to a site similar to this. So what Fast Choice is, it's essentially a list of all the different organizations that we've worked with in the past. We know they have decent rates, they have decent repayment options, they don't screw our students over, and then we have links to show you all that different stuff right there on there in one simple page, so you don't have to go searching the internet to find 100 different things. So again, with private loans, just be wary of them and make sure that you are shopping around. The next thing we want to talk about is scholarships. Scholarships, there are thousands and thousands of them out there. I've seen scholarships for people that are left-handed. I've seen scholarships for people that like to ride horses. Scholarships are so unique and there's so many of them that it's hard to say that this is the criteria for one versus the other one, just because there are so many of them out there. There's one for everybody, and the nice part about them is there's no limit to how many scholarships a student can get. There was a student featured, I believe it was about 8 years ago on Good Morning America. I think she was from Ohio, if I'm not mistaken. She had filled out 1,500 scholarship applications. She started doing it at the end of her junior year. She did them every day all the way through her senior year. She said she essentially made it a job where every day she went home, she did 6 or 7 scholarship applications, and then she was good for the night. Anybody want to take a guess as to how much money she was awarded? She was awarded $1.4 million of scholarship money. So the money's there. It's just a matter of you taking the time to fill out those applications. Now, granted, like I said, she filled out 1,500 of them, so there's quite a few there. But still, $1.4 million of scholarship money isn't nothing to sneeze at. Now, granted, she was not able to use all $1.4 million because I don't know of any colleges that cost that much. Hopefully none do. But there are 2 different types of scholarships you can get. First one is going to be a general scholarship. General scholarships can be used to pay for anything. Your tuition, your housing, your books. You can use the leftover funds to get your gas and groceries, whatever you need to help yourself succeed while you're in school. Whereas then you have what's called a tuition-only scholarship. And as the name says, it only pays for tuition. So if there is no tuition to pay, it sits in the student's account until they either enroll in more classes, transfer to another college, or eventually the college will just send it back to whoever gave it to them. Now, biggest complaint I hear about scholarships is students don't want to do them because they don't want to write essays. If you have to write an essay for a scholarship, save it on your computer somewhere because I can guarantee you there's at least 50 other scholarship applications out there that want that same exact question answered. You go in, you change the name of the company that you're sending it out to, and ship it off. You don't necessarily have to recreate the wheel every single time. If you are one of those folks that uses ChatGPT or any of those AI programs to help you with your writing or your spelling, please make sure you read through your essay before you ship it off. It is not the most humanized thing in the world yet, so you do want to read through to make sure you don't sound too robotic with your essay. Some scholarships are just simply drawing type scholarships. That's the thing that we try to stress to students, is not all of them require huge long essays. Some of them you just fill out who you are and where you want to go to school. For example, when I was in college, I got a scholarship for $1,000 from Mars candy bars because I sent in 8 proofs of purchases for Snickers. So because I ate candy, I got $1,000 to go to college. So, I mean, it's not rocket science. Home Depot, I believe, used to have a scholarship where if you planted a tree before Earth Day and videotaped yourself doing it, sent in the video, you got put into a drawing for 15 $1,000 scholarships. There are hundreds and hundreds of these out there. It's just a matter, again, of you taking that time to find these. If you don't meet all the requirements for a specific scholarship, it doesn't necessarily mean you can't fill out the application as long as you meet a couple of the criteria. A while back, we had a student that had a 3.8 GPA and wanted to go into microbiology. So he filled out a scholarship application for women in science. He was awarded a $2,000 scholarship for women going into science because he's the only one that did the application. So these companies want to give this money out. It looks good for them. It's a tax write-off, and it helps you as the student. So just make sure you're filling out these applications. Your guidance counselors are going to be your best resource for your local scholarships that are specific to your high school and to your town. When you apply to your colleges, with the FAFSA application, you can list up to 20 different colleges on your application when you do it, so you do not have to know where you're going when you do the FAFSA application. When you apply to those colleges, you should also try to apply for any high school senior scholarships that they have. Try to do it all at the same time, because for those of you that might wait until, say, February to declare where you're going to go to school, some of those applications are going to be closed by then, so you might miss out on a chance at getting some of those scholarships specifically from that high school. So again, when you apply to the college, also try to apply to their high school senior scholarships. Up here is a couple of national database sites, such as fastweb.com and goingmerry.com. With these, they are just database sites. You go on, you create an account, give them a little bit of information, and they're going to pop back a list based off of what you told them and says, all right, of the thousands of scholarships on our website, these 118 are the best fit for you. Doesn't mean you have to fill out all 118. Doesn't mean you can't do more than 118. They're just saying that these are going to be the best fit for you. With these two database sites, I do have to give you fair warning. They do offer paid advertising on there because that's how they keep it free to the students. So every now and then you might come across one of the ones that says, hey, give us $50, we'll make sure you get a scholarship. You are applying for free money, so don't give money to get money. It doesn't make sense. The other one up here is called foxriverscholarshipcenter.org. This is a local database site that's taken care of in Appleton. They regularly go through and update the scholarships. If a scholarship is no good anymore, they take it off the site, usually within a week or two of them finding out about it. And then they update it regularly. So on there, it also shows you the date that the scholarship opened last year, and it also shows you the requirements that were last year so that you can kind of go in, you can look at what might be coming up and prepare yourself so that once that date comes, you can submit it right away. So again, with the scholarships, just make sure that you're filling them out. The next way that we want to talk about for paying for education is veterans education benefits. Wisconsin is one of the best states in the country for veterans educational benefits. So if mom or dad served in the military, doesn't matter if it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, if you're still serving in the military, make sure you reach out to the Veterans Education Office at the college you decide you want to go to. There could potentially be some benefits out there for you. For example, I'm a disabled combat vet, and based off of my military service, my children can attend any state-funded college for up to 128 semester hours. That's essentially a free bachelor's degree at any UW or tech college in the state because of my military service. Everybody's situation is a little bit different, but there are several different types of veterans educational benefits out there, so make sure you are asking that question. The worst thing you're going to do is you're going to spend 15 minutes in the office talking about the old days, and they might tell you there's nothing there. But you never know, you might get something like similar to what I have, or I've seen students that have gotten paid benefit where they get like $900 a month just to go to school to help them focus on school rather than working. So, I mean, there's lots of them out there. If you have a parent that qualifies as a veteran, make sure you're asking those questions. Next thing we want to talk about is educational savings accounts. So you have your EdVest 529 plans, you have your UTMAs, your UGMAs, and your Keverdels. So all of these, if students, you might not know what these are. most parents probably know what they are. They're educational savings plans that you're going to open when the child's born a lot of times. Stick a little money in when you can, and then it grows, and then you can use that money for educational purposes. Now, with it being for educational purposes, you do want to find out beforehand what is and is not considered educational purposes. Some of these will consider a laptop as an educational expense, while others will not consider a laptop as an educational expense. You also want to find out how are they going to do their billing. So do they pay the college directly? Do you have to pay up front and then you get reimbursed from the account? These are the main questions that you want to be asking with these accounts. Also with these, there is one little caveat that we want to let you know about. So when you do fill out the FAFSA application, you may be asked how much assets you have. Not everybody gets that question, but if you are, you may have to tell them how much roughly assets you have. EdVest accounts are considered parent assets. Yes, it may be for your student, but it is considered a parent asset. That is because if the student gets a full ride scholarship, it doesn't need to use that EdVest account. You as the parent then can take that EdVest account, give it to another child. You can save it, give it to your grandchild, or you yourself as the parent can even use that money to go back to college yourself. They did just recently change this. I want to say it was about 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, where if it's inactive for, I think, 15 years, you can pull money out of it just like a normal retirement account. So if you're not using it, you save the money up, it's your money. We don't want to let it go to waste, so now they make it so you can pull out of it. So EdVest, again, those are parent assets. UTMAs, UGMAs, and Coverdell accounts, those are student assets, and that's because once they turn 18, that money is theirs as long as they accept it. So those are considered student assets. Now, if the account is in grandma's name, you don't have to worry about it because that's grandma's asset. So unless it's one of these UTMA or UGMA or Coverdell accounts. Some other additional payment options that are out there. So parental affiliations is going to be similar to scholarships. This can also be student affiliations. So if you're part of any clubs or organizations around the area, Lions Club, Rotary, Shriners, whatever it happens to be, or if you work for some smaller companies, it doesn't hurt to ask if they have any kind of like educational reimbursement, if they have any scholarships, grants, things like that that they might give out. A lot of the smaller companies don't necessarily post it out to the whole world to know that they have these, just because they don't want everybody and their uncle applying for it. They want it to stay to somebody that's, there in their area, essentially. So if you have any of these, just again, make sure you're asking around. Worst thing they're going to do is tell you, nope, sorry, we don't have anything, but you never know when you might find one of those gems out there that can help you pay for your education. This next row, AmeriCorps, CAP Services, WIOA, WICA, and AdvoCap. I'm sure many of you parents have seen some of these around before and think, oh, these are only for returning parents that want to get trained into something different. For the most part, that is correct. But at the same time, some of these, since they are so focused on specific career areas, a lot of times they do have programs that can benefit a student. CAP Services had a program, I think they might still have it, but it was if your student wanted to become a trucker. Trucking is a high demand job right now. It pays extremely well, but not enough people are trucking. So these guys went as far as to pay for their entire education. They pay for all your licensing. They even go as far as if you live more than X amount of miles away from the campus, you could get paid gas mileage to go to and from school. Or if it was even over a certain part of mileage, then you could get put up in a hotel while you're going to school, just so you can get your trucking license and your education to get you out on the road in trucking. I believe it was WIOA used to have one, and I think it still might be out there, but it's called the Cow Grant. So what that was if your student wants to get into nursing, so if they want to become a nurse, a phlebotomist, a stenographer, any of those other fun jobs that are out there, they could get their entire education paid for through that Cow Grant as long as they're willing to sign a contract saying they're going to work in the state of Wisconsin for, I think it was like 3 years after they graduated. So as long as they're willing to work in Wisconsin for a couple of years after they're done with school, they could get their entire education paid for. So these are outside organizations. It is not applying you with the FAFSA application. These are outside organizations you would have to reach out to on your own to ask them and find out what all they have available. Payment plans are going to be offered by every college. Most of the time, they are usually free to get on a payment plan. Otherwise, it might be like $20. But with those payment plans, the sooner you're on them, obviously, the better it is for you because it's a smaller down payment and there's more payments that we can stretch it out into. We don't kick students out of class for non-payment. What happens is we put holds on your account and you can't enroll in your next semester until the current one's taken care of. So that means you are either having pending financial aid from the federal government that's coming in, you've already paid for the balance, or you are on a payment plan that is current and up to date. With the payment plans also, this can be nice for the students that are planning to pay out of pocket, that you might not have a bunch of other people there helping you. So rather than dumping your entire savings at the beginning of the semester, potentially putting you in a tight spot, we recommend payment plans because then you can make payments throughout the semester. So if, say, your car breaks down and you need a new tire or something and you don't have somebody to help you out with that, you can pay for the tire because you still have money in that savings, but then you can figure out that payment plan the rest of the way down the line. A lot of times colleges will have resources that can help with those different types of things, so just make sure you're asking. Apprenticeships, if your student wants to become a plumber, a welder, a glazer, pipe fitter, or any of the other trades that are out there, make sure you're talking to the apprenticeship offices around the state. Every one of the technical colleges has an apprenticeship office. A lot of the UW systems have programs themselves. But with these apprenticeship programs, some of them can be quite lucrative for students. There's been times where the companies will come in and say they need 40 welders, so they're going to hire 40 people to go weld. They go to work during the day, get the on-the-job training. They're going to go to class at night. Most of the time, those companies are going to pay for that class. Sometimes they even go as far as to pay for you to go to school. So they'll pay you to go to school and pay for your classes. Nice part is you get your education taken care of and you've gotten a whole bunch of on-the-job training, so you're already like halfway towards your journeyman by the time you get out in the field on your own. So it can be a great opportunity. So if your student wants to get into the trades, make sure you are looking into apprenticeships. Last one up here is tribal grants. So tribal grants, if you are any part Native American, make sure you reach out to the tribal rep at the college you are going to. Wisconsin has several different tribes throughout the state. Many of them have different scholarships, grants, and some of them even have their own loan programs that they'll give to tribe members of their tribe. So if you are any part Native American, make sure you reach out to those people. Special circumstances. So with the FAFSA application, it is going to look at what's called the prior year's tax information. So that means they are going to look for those of you, since you guys are juniors, you'll start in the 27, 28. Yes, 27, 28. So they will look at your 2025 tax information when you fill out the FAFSA application. Now, if for some reason in 2027, when you go to school, if your income is far less than what it was in 2025, you can always do what's called a special circumstance appeal. So what that is it's if your income has changed drastically due to, say, you have another child, so now there's another mouth to feed. Somebody retires, somebody ETSs from the military, parents are sick and can't work, God forbid somebody passes away. If that were to happen, you can always do what's called a special circumstance appeal. You can do this at any college. Some of them don't promote it because they might not want to do the extra work, but it is available at any college you're going to go to, where what they'll do is then they will reevaluate your financial aid based off of your current situation rather than what it was 2 years prior. So just remember that that is available if for some reason you think you had that income change where you would want to do that. The next thing up here is additional FAFSA help. So as you all know, you all pay taxes. Your taxpayer dollars help pay for the college. So what we all do, other than just having me, we also offer FAFSA Thursdays is what we call it. So every Thursday on our main Appleton campus, anybody in our community can come in and we will help you walk through the process from start to finish. You do not have to be attending Fox Valley Technical College. You just have to be somebody that lives in our community. You stop in anytime between 9 in the morning and 6 p.m., and we will always have somebody there that can help you go through the process from start to finish. We do also offer these at our Clintonville campus on the second Wednesday of every month, and at our Wapaka campus on the third Wednesday of every month. Same times, you just call the facility ahead of time if you want, just to make sure the person's out there that day. But there should be somebody out there that can help anybody in our communities go through the financial aid process if you would like that free assistance. So then at this time, if you have any questions or concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer those. Otherwise, this is my contact information. If something comes up later that you think about and you want to ask it, feel free to email me, call me. This is my busy time right now, so I might not get back to you right away, but I do make sure that I get back to you within a day or so. Any questions?